The council chamber smelled like burnt ozone and fear. I should know. I am Krath'vex, second speaker of the Vrynn Collective, and I have spent 300 cycles mastering the art of reading atmospheric chemical signatures. Right now, the air practically screamed with the pheromones of panic from my colleagues. The human vessel has not responded to our fourth hail, announced Procurement Officer Delvix, his tertiary eye stalks twitching nervously. They continue on intercept course with our mining operation. Impossible. Supreme Administrator Kilnoth slammed 6 of his 8 appendages against the conference table. We issued proper warnings. We followed all protocols established by the Galactic Maritime Convention. I would have laughed if Vrynn physiology allowed it. Protocols. As if the humans cared about our carefully worded diplomatic discouragements. You see, here is what my esteemed colleagues refuse to understand after 200 years of human integration into galactic society. Humans do not process threat assessment the way rational species do. When you tell a Vrynn there is danger ahead, we recalculate our approach. When you tell a Krath'vex there are superior forces in an area, they withdraw to reorganize. When you tell a human not to do something because it is dangerous, they smile. Show me the vessel again, I demanded, activating my personal display terminal. The holographic projection flickered to life above the table. There she was. The TCSS, Relentless. A human frigate, medium class. Nothing particularly special about her specifications. Standard fusion drives, conventional weapons arrays, defensive shielding that our analysts rated as adequate at best. But then I saw the command deck personnel roster, and my dorsal vents involuntarily released a puff of startled gas. By the void, I whispered. They sent her. Sent who? Kilnoth demanded. What are you talking about, Krath'vex? Captain Renna Voss. The name meant nothing to most of the council. Why would it? They spent their time reviewing trade agreements and mining quotas, not paying attention to human military personnel. But I had made it my business to study humans, to really understand them, ever since the incident at Proxima Station. Let me tell you about Renna Voss. 3 years ago, during what humans called the Kessler Rebellion, a group of human separatists had seized control of an entire station. They had hostages, including 17 human children. They had enough firepower to hold off a fleet. They had demands that no government could meet. The Terran Coalition sent Voss. She arrived in a single ship, broadcast one message, then proceeded to board the station through an exhaust port that the separatists had assumed was too small for entry. She was wrong about that assumption. Or rather, the separatists were. Voss and her team spent 42 minutes inside that station before every single separatist was either dead or unconscious. All hostages recovered. 0 casualties among innocents. When asked how she did it during the inquiry, Voss had smiled that particular human smile, the one that does not reach their eyes, and said, I asked them nicely to surrender. They said no. So, I implemented Plan B. Nobody ever found out what Plan B actually entailed. The separatists refused to talk about it. Some of them still wake up screaming, according to reports. Open a channel, I ordered. Now. Krath'vex, you do not have authority to, Kilnoth began. Open the channel, or we are all going to die. That got their attention. Delvix scrambled to establish the connection, his manipulators flying across his control interface. The view screen crackled, static resolved into an image, and there she was. Captain Renna Voss did not look like a monster. She was not imposing by human standards. Average height for her species, lean build, dark hair pulled back in what humans called a ponytail. She wore the standard Terran Coalition uniform, navy blue with silver insignia. Her face was calm, almost pleasant. Her eyes were not. Those eyes had seen things that would break most species. They held a kind of patient calculation that made my survival instincts fire warning signals throughout my nervous system. This is Captain Voss, of the TCSS, Relentless, responding to your fifth hail. Her voice was steady, conversational even. I assume you have now realized that your previous 4 warnings have been received, acknowledged, and filed appropriately. Captain Voss. I spoke quickly before Kelnoth could say something catastrophically stupid. This is second speaker Krath'vex. Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding regarding our territorial claim in this sector. No misunderstanding, second speaker. She leaned back in her command chair. Your mining operation has been extracting resources from asteroid field 779 for the past 6 months. That asteroid field happens to contain the remains of the human colony ship Daybreak, which was destroyed during the siege of Terra Prime 40 years ago. 2,300 souls went down with that ship. Their families would very much like to recover the remains. Oh no! Oh no! 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 Captain, we had no knowledge. I started. Yes, you did. Her voice remained pleasant, but somehow became harder. You received notification from the Terran Coalition Historical Preservation Society 8 months ago. You acknowledged receipt. You continued mining operations anyway. The debris from the Daybreak has been processed into your smelting operations. You have been selling refined materials that contain atomized human remains. The council chamber went silent, except for the recycling hum of the life support systems. Kelnoth finally found his voice. We were unaware that humans held such sentimental attachments to molecular debris. Surely compensation can be arranged. We are willing to negotiate reparations. I watched Voss's face. Her expression did not change. That was bad. That was very, very bad. Compensation, she repeated, as if testing the word in her mouth. Let me make sure I understand your position. You want to negotiate a settlement for pulverizing 2,000 human beings into slag and selling them as raw materials? Captain Voss? Please, I interjected desperately. Supreme Administrator Kelnoth speaks without full context. We can cease operations immediately. We can provide full access to our records. Whatever you require to properly memorialize your fallen. Second speaker Krath'vex. She looked directly at me, and I felt my respiratory spiracles constrict. I appreciate that you are trying to de-escalate this situation. I recognize that you specifically voted against continuing mining operations when this issue was first raised. I have read the transcripts of council sessions. So here is what is going to happen. She leaned forward. You have exactly 1 standard hour to evacuate all personnel from the mining station. Every Vrynn worker, every support staff member, every administrator. 1 hour. After that, I will be reducing your facility to constituent atoms. You cannot, Kelnoth sputtered. This is an act of war. We will file formal complaints with the Galactic Union. We will demand sanctions. We will. You will do exactly nothing, Voss interrupted, her voice never rising above conversational volume. Because I have already transmitted evidence of your operations to the Galactic Union. Mining a designated memorial site is a Class 7 violation of interstellar law. Disturbing sentient remains without authorization carries mandatory sanctions. Selling refined materials derived from sapient beings without disclosure violates 12 separate trade regulations. She smiled. It was not a nice smile. By the time your complaints reach the Union Council chambers, they will already be preparing injunctions against the Vrynn Collective. You will lose your mining licenses in 17 different sectors. Your trade agreements with humanity, the Sslik Confederation, and the Araxis hegemony will be suspended pending investigation. Your economy will contract by approximately 40% within 2 quarters. You have been planning this, I said quietly. Of course I have. She tilted her head slightly. Slightly. Did you think we would simply accept your actions? Did you truly believe that humans would let this slide because your species finds the concept of honoring the dead to be inefficient? The awful thing was, yes, that was exactly what the council had believed. They had assumed humans would complain, maybe levy a fine, then move on. They had applied Vrynn logic to human behavior, and that was always a fatal mistake. 1 hour, Voss repeated. I suggest you begin evacuation procedures immediately. And, second speaker, I recommend you personally ensure that every living being exits that station. Because when my clock hits 0, my weapons officer has orders to fire regardless of life signs aboard. The connection terminated. Chaos erupted in the council chamber. Kelnoth was screaming about human aggression and unilateral action. Delvix was frantically trying to calculate evacuation timelines. 3 junior administrators had apparently fainted, their bio signs dropping to emergency levels. I sat quietly, running calculations in my head. The mining station housed approximately 400 personnel. Standard evacuation protocols required 3 hours minimum to safely extract everyone through the available transport capacity. Voss knew this. She had to know this, which meant she wanted us to panic. Everyone be silent! I projected my voice using all 4 of my vocal chambers. The enhanced volume got their attention. Kelnoth, initiate emergency evacuation now. Pull every available transport within range, contact the human vessel, and inform them we are complying. We cannot evacuate in 1 hour, Kelnoth protested. It is physically impossible. Then we make it possible, I snapped. Override safety protocols. Double load the transports. Use the cargo haulers if necessary. Move! As the council scrambled to coordinate the evacuation, I opened a private channel to the Relentless. Voss's face appeared on my personal screen. Second speaker, she acknowledged. Captain, we need more time. Even with every shortcut, we cannot extract 400 beings in 1 hour. Yes, you can. Her tone was matter-of-fact. If you prioritize lives over equipment, if you abandon property and focus solely on getting bodies onto ships, you can do it in 53 minutes. I know because I have run the simulations. You planned this evacuation scenario? I planned 37 evacuation scenarios based on your station layout and transport capacity. She pulled up a data file on her own screen. I am transmitting optimal routing now. Follow these procedures exactly, and everyone lives. The file appeared in my system. I opened it, scanning quickly. It was brilliant, terrifying, but brilliant. She had identified inefficiencies in our standard evacuation protocols that we had never noticed because we had never needed to evacuate under combat conditions. Why are you helping us? I asked. Because I am not a monster, second speaker. For the first time, something that might have been emotion flickered across her face. I want that station destroyed because of what it represents, but I have no desire to kill people for following orders. Your administrators made this choice. Your workers are just trying to survive. If we succeed in evacuating, you will still destroy the station? Without hesitation. The emotion vanished. That facility has been contaminated with human remains. It cannot be salvaged or repurposed. It must be eliminated completely. I understood. This was not about punishment. This was about sanctity, about ritual, about the human need to properly honor their dead. We Vrynn recycled our deceased into base nutrients for the collective. Efficient, logical, practical. Humans buried their dead in boxes or burned them to ash, then kept the ashes in containers or scattered them in meaningful locations. Wasteful, emotional, illogical. But they cared. That was the critical difference. Humans cared with an intensity that could reshape stars if properly directed, or destroy those who violated what they held sacred. I told her, we will comply. See that you do, second speaker. And Krath'vex? When this is over, I suggest you consider seeking a position where your perspective might be better appreciated. You are wasted in that council. The connection closed before I could respond. The next 53 minutes were the most chaotic of my entire career. We abandoned every protocol that slowed us down. Workers fled to transports carrying only the clothing they wore. Expensive equipment was left running. Entire sections were depressurized to speed evacuation of outer modules. And slowly, agonizingly, the personnel count on the station ticked downward. 400, 380, 312. I coordinated from the council chamber, but I kept one eye on the chronometer, counting down to Voss's deadline. She had given us 1 hour. I wondered if she would actually fire with people still aboard. Then I remembered her reputation and decided I did not want to find out. Final transport launching, Delvix announced, his voice ragged with stress. All personnel accounted for. Wait, no! 2 life signs still registered in Section 7. My respiratory system nearly seized. Who? Why were they not evacuated? Senior Mining Coordinator, Sslik, and his assistant. They are. They are trying to save the quarterly reports? Of course they were. Bureaucratic instinct overriding survival instinct. Very Vrynn. I opened the emergency channel. Sslik, evacuate immediately. Leave the reports. But second speaker, these documents are vital for our annual review. We cannot simply abandon them. I looked at the chronometer. 4 minutes remaining. I opened the channel to the Relentless. Captain Voss, we have 2 idiots in Section 7 who refuse to leave without paperwork. I need 3 additional minutes. Denied. Her response was immediate. Captain, please. Second speaker, I gave you an hour. I provided detailed evacuation protocols. If 2 members of your people value reports over their lives, that is their choice. I am sorry, but the deadline stands. 3 minutes. I made a decision that probably ended my political career. Computer, activate remote systems override. Authorization, Krath'vex Theta 97. Override accepted. The station computer responded in its bland automated voice. I seized control of the environmental systems in Section 7 and triggered the emergency purge. Atmosphere vented into space in approximately 8 seconds. The 2 life signs began moving very quickly toward the nearest airlock. Second speaker! Sslik's voice was shrill over the comm. You nearly killed us! Get on the transport or I will finish the job! I roared. They got on the transport. Delvix stared at me. You could be charged with attempted murder. Add it to the list of my crimes today. I activated the all-clear signal. Captain Voss, all personnel evacuated. The station is yours. Confirmed. All Vrynn vessels maintain current distance. Any ship approaching the station will be treated as hostile. We watched from our various transports and command vessels as the Relentless moved into position. The human frigate looked almost delicate against the bulk of our mining facility, like a small predator approaching a large but helpless prey animal. Weapons charged, came Voss's voice over the open channel she was broadcasting. This facility has been declared a memorial site under Terran Coalition Authority and Galactic Union Preservation Statutes. Let it be known that the remains of the colony ship Daybreak and her crew are honored and remembered. There was a moment of silence. Fire. The Relentless unleashed her main batteries. Not explosive weapons, I noted. Thermal lances. The beams cut through the station's hull with surgical precision, slicing the facility into smaller and smaller sections. The station did not explode dramatically. It simply came apart, each piece methodically disintegrated until nothing remained but atomized particles. It took 7 minutes to completely erase the facility. When it was done, not a single piece larger than a molecule remained. The site has been cleared, Voss announced. A memorial beacon will be placed at these coordinates. Any vessel approaching within 10,000 kilometers will be warned off. Any vessel entering within 1,000 kilometers will be destroyed without further warning. She paused. The Vrynn Collective has 48 hours to issue a formal apology to the families of the Daybreak crew. Failure to do so will result in additional sanctions. This matter is concluded." The Relentless turned and began accelerating away from the former mining site. Just like that, she had destroyed billions of credits worth of equipment, ended a 6-month operation, and humiliated the entire Vrynn Council without even raising her voice. "This is an outrage!" Quel'Noth was predictably apoplectic. "We will protest this to every governing body. We will demand compensation. We will issue the formal apology within 12 hours, I interrupted. We will pay reparations to every family. We will accept all sanctions without contest. Have you lost your mind, Krath'vex? No. I felt tired suddenly, exhausted in ways that had nothing to do with physical fatigue. I have simply accepted reality. We made a mistake. We compounded that mistake by ignoring warnings. We paid the price. B. Grateful it was only credits and equipment. Only? That station represented a significant portion of our annual revenue, and those 2,000 humans represented someone's children, parents, siblings, friends. I looked at him directly. Do you understand yet? Do you grasp what we did wrong? He stared at me, confusion evident in his bio signs. No, he did not understand. None of them did. That was the real problem. The Vrynn approached death as an economic calculation. Biomass returned to the collective, resources redistributed to new purposes, efficient, practical, emotionless. Humans approached death as something sacred, something that mattered beyond mere molecular redistribution. They built monuments to their fallen. They spoke names centuries after the person had ceased to exist. They carried grief like cargo through their entire lives. We thought this made them weak. We were wrong. Their sentiment gave them strength we could not calculate. It gave them lines they would not cross, and lines they would defend with overwhelming force. 3 weeks later, I received a private message. The source was untraceable, but the content made the sender obvious. Second speaker Krath'vex, this is Captain Voss. I wanted you to know that the families of the Daybreak crew appreciated your role in ensuring a peaceful resolution. Several have asked me to thank you personally. I realize your political position is now untenable. If you find yourself in need of alternative employment, the Terran Coalition has several positions available for individuals with experience in cross-species negotiation. Think about it. I did think about it. Quite a lot, actually. 6 months after the incident, I found myself sitting in a human restaurant on Terra Prime, eating something called a burger, and wondering how my life had taken such a bizarre turn. You look confused, Captain Voss observed from across the table. She was dressed in civilian clothes today, though she still carried herself with that particular military-bearing humans never quite lost. I am confused, I admitted, manipulating the sandwich with my primary grippers. This food item is structurally unsound. It collapses when compressed. That means you are doing it right. She took a bite of her own meal with apparent satisfaction. Welcome to Earth cuisine. Function follows taste, not engineering principles. I had accepted her job offer 3 weeks after receiving that message. The alternative was remaining on the council while Quel'Noth and his supporters systematically dismantled everything I had worked to build. They blamed me for the station loss, naturally. They blamed me for the sanctions, for the economic disruption, for the damage to Vrynn reputation. They blamed everything except their own decisions. So here I was, senior consultant to the Terran Coalition Diplomatic Corps, eating unstable food and learning to understand the species that had so thoroughly defeated mine without firing a shot at actual living targets. Well, mostly without firing shots. Your orientation begins tomorrow, Voss said, pulling up a datapad. You will be working with Ambassador Kelso on the Vrynn Reparations Committee. Your insight into collective decision-making will be valuable. The collective still refuses to acknowledge wrongdoing beyond the formal apology. I had been monitoring the political situation back home. They paid the reparations only because the alternative was complete economic isolation. I know, She set down her burger, her expression becoming serious. That is why we need you. Someone has to bridge the gap between how your people think and how we think. Otherwise, this happens again. You believe there will be another incident? I know there will be. She pulled up a star chart on her pad. Look at this. 17 different locations where Vrynn mining operations are currently active. 12 of them are in disputed territory. 5 overlap with the sites that have cultural significance to other species. The collective sees empty space and resources. Everyone else sees history and meaning. I studied the map, my stomach sinking. She was right, of course. The Council had learned nothing from the Daybreak situation except to be more careful about documentation. The collective does not listen to dissenting voices. You can help us identify problems before they become catastrophes. Voss leaned back in her chair. You can teach us how to communicate in ways your people might actually hear. And maybe, eventually, you can help create a new generation of Vrynn leaders who understand that efficiency is not the only value that matters. Before I could respond, her communication device chirped. She glanced at it, and I saw her entire body language shift. That relaxed, almost friendly posture vanished. The soldier returned. We have a situation, she said quietly. How quickly can you get to the council building? 20 minutes in traffic. Why? What happened? The collective just seized a human research vessel in Sector 42. They are claiming it violated their territorial boundaries. She was already standing, leaving payment for our meals. The ship is the TSV Meridian, crew of 32 scientists. They were studying stellar formation patterns. My respiratory system went into overdrive. No, they cannot be that foolish. They already are. Voss was moving toward the exit. Come on! You are about to get your first real assignment much sooner than planned. The emergency council session was already in progress when we arrived. The room was filled with human diplomats, military advisors, and what appeared to be several very angry scientists. Ambassador Kelso, a heavy-set human with steel-gray hair and the weathered face of someone who had spent decades in negotiation rooms, spotted us immediately. Voss, good, you are here. And you brought our Vrynn consultant. Perfect timing. He gestured to the central display. Situation brief. The Meridian was conducting authorized research in what we believed was open space. The Vrynn Collective is claiming the vessel crossed into their territory and is detaining the ship and crew pending investigation. What do the actual boundary surveys show? Voss asked. That is where it gets interesting. Kelso pulled up a series of overlapping maps. According to the treaties, signed 40 years ago, that space is indeed open territory. But the Vrynn filed a claim extension 6 months ago. That extension is still being reviewed by the Galactic Union. It has not been approved or ratified. So, they are enforcing a boundary that does not legally exist yet, I said slowly. They are attempting to establish possession through action, rather than waiting for authorization. Exactly. Kelso looked at me with approval. You see the problem. I saw more than the problem. I saw the entire nightmare unfolding. The collective had learned the wrong lesson from the Daybreak incident. They thought the issue was that they had been caught breaking established rules. So now, they were trying to create new rules by force, before anyone could stop them. We need to get those scientists back, said a woman I did not recognize. She wore a lab coat and looked like she had not slept in days. Dr. Marina Singh is on that vessel. She is leading the most important stellar research project in a generation. If anything happens to her team, nothing will happen to them, Voss said with absolute certainty. Krath'vex, what is the collective's likely position here? All eyes turned to me. I felt the weight of their expectations, their hope that I could provide some magic insight that would resolve this peacefully. The collective will not release the crew without concessions, I said carefully. They will see this as an opportunity to force recognition of their territorial claim. If you acknowledge their authority to detain the vessel, you effectively validate their expanded boundary. And if we do not acknowledge it? Kelso asked. Then they will escalate. They will charge the crew with espionage or resource theft. They will demand trials under Vrynn law. They will draw this out for months while they establish infrastructure in the disputed region. How do we break the deadlock? Voss was watching me intently. I thought about it. Really thought about it. What would motivate the collective to back down without losing face? What did they value enough to trade? Then it hit me. Data, I said. The Meridian was studying stellar formation. That research has commercial applications, correct? Dr. Singh nodded eagerly. Our work on stellar nucleosynthesis patterns could revolutionize fusion reactor design. The energy efficiency improvements alone would be worth trillions across multiple economies. The collective wants that research, I continued. They detained the ship not just to assert territorial control, but because they recognize the value of what was aboard. If you offer them access to the preliminary findings in exchange for the crew's release, they might accept. We are not bribing them with our own stolen research, Singh protested. You are not bribing them, Voss said thoughtfully. You are trading preliminary data that they could not properly utilize without your expertise anyway. By the time they figure out the applications, you will be 3 generations ahead in your research. Kelso was nodding. It gives them a face-saving exit. They get something of value. We get our people back, and the territorial dispute goes back to the Union courts where it belongs. There is a problem, I interjected. The collective needs to believe they won something. Simply offering the data will make them suspicious. They will think it is a trick. So, how do we make them believe they are winning? Kelso asked. Voss smiled that particular smile, the one that never reached her eyes. We make them work for it. We negotiate hard. We act reluctant. We let them think they are extracting concessions through superior bargaining. Over the next 6 hours, I watched human diplomacy in action, and it was terrifying. They staged arguments among themselves in full view of the Vrynn monitoring systems, making it appear that there was internal disagreement about how to proceed. Kelso played the angry diplomat, demanding military action. Singh played the desperate scientist willing to give up anything to save her team. A junior attaché played the voice of reason, suggesting compromise. It was theater. Meanwhile, Voss and I worked behind the scenes, crafting the actual negotiation strategy. We identified exactly which preliminary research findings to offer, which parts to withhold, and how to present the package as a major concession rather than a calculated trade. You humans are devious, I observed after we finalized the proposal. We prefer the term strategic, Voss replied. But yes, we have learned that sometimes you need to let the other side think they outsmarted you, especially when dealing with species that value efficiency over relationships. The actual negotiation took another 12 hours. The collective initially demanded full access to all research, compensation for the territorial violation, and a formal apology from the Terran coalition. Kelso refused everything, instead demanding immediate release of the crew and threatening sanctions. They went back and forth like predators circling each other, neither willing to show weakness. Finally, I was brought in as the intermediary. My role was perfect for this. The collective knew me, knew I had left in disgrace. They assumed I was sympathetic to their position, but constrained by my human employers. Second Speaker Krath'vex. Supreme Administrator Quelnoth appeared on the view screen. He still held his position. Naturally. The code. Collective rewarded stubborn adherence to policy. So, you have aligned yourself with the humans fully. Predictable. I serve where my expertise is valued, I replied calmly. But I come to you now with a proposal that benefits both parties. I laid out the offer. Preliminary research data in exchange for immediate crew release. No admission of wrongdoing from either side. The territorial dispute to be resolved through proper union channels. Quelnoth declared, We have legitimate claims to that territory. We will not surrender our position based on preliminary data. This was the critical moment. I had coached Kelso on exactly what to say next. Then we are at an impasse, Kelso said heavily. Ambassador, please inform the collective that we are withdrawing our proposal. We will pursue alternative solutions. Wait, I said, as if making a decision in the moment. Supreme Administrator, perhaps there is additional value I can offer. The research data includes computational models that could improve fusion reactor efficiency by 12%. I have reviewed the technical specifications. With your current energy infrastructure, that represents a savings of approximately 2 trillion credits annually. That got his attention. I saw the calculation happening behind his eyes. The collective always calculated. The humans would provide these specifications? As part of the full data package? Yes, but only in exchange for immediate crew release and a commitment to resolve the territorial matter through proper diplomatic channels. Kelnoth was silent for a long moment. I knew what he was thinking. 2 trillion credits annually versus the uncertain benefits of holding 32 human scientists. The economic calculation was obvious. The collective accepts these terms, he finally said. The crew of the Meridian will be released within 6 hours. We maintain that our territorial claim is valid, but we agree to pursue resolution through appropriate union processes. Agreed, Kelso said immediately. The data transfer will begin as soon as the crew is safely aboard a coalition vessel. The connection terminated. The room erupted in relieved conversation. Singh was already coordinating recovery operations for her team. Military advisors were updating defensive positions in case the collective reneged. Diplomatic staff were drafting formal agreements. Voss pulled me aside. Well done, she said quietly. That was exactly the outcome we needed. I feel like I just manipulated my own people, I admitted. You gave them a rational basis for making the right choice, Voss corrected. The collective values efficiency and economic benefit. You presented a scenario where releasing the crew was the most efficient option. That is not manipulation. That is translation. Is there a difference? Yes. She looked at me directly. Manipulation is making someone act against their interests. Translation is helping them understand where their true interests lie. The collective could have dug in and faced escalating conflict. Instead, they gained valuable research data and avoided confrontation. Everyone won. I wanted to believe that. I really did. The crew of the Meridian was released on schedule. Dr. Singh and her team returned safely, already planning their next research mission with additional security protocols. The territorial dispute went to the Union courts, where it would likely be resolved in humanity's favor given the treaty documentation. The collective got their fusion data and declared a diplomatic victory, and I got my first real success as a bridge between species. 2 months later, I was reviewing survey data when I noticed something that made my respiratory system freeze. Sector 73. Vrynn mining operations had begun in an area that was supposed to be an exclusion zone. Not because of treaties or territorial disputes, but because that sector contained the remnants of the battle at Haven's Gate, where the Sslik Confederation had lost 17,000 soldiers defending a human colony from raiders. The Sslik honored their war dead even more intensely than humans did. They built shrine ships that orbited battle sites for generations. Haven's Gate had 3 such shrine ships in permanent station, and the collective was mining there. I immediately contacted Voss. We have a problem, I told her when her face appeared on my screen. Sector 73. The collective is about to create an incident that will make the Daybreak situation look like a minor disagreement. She listened, as I explained. I watched her expression shift from concern to something harder. The Sslik will not negotiate, she said flatly. They will attack. That is not a threat. It is a certainty. Their honor code demands immediate military response to desecration of warrior shrines. I know. I had studied Sslik culture extensively. The Collective does not understand this. They see the shrine ships as inefficient resource deployment. They assume the Sslik will follow diplomatic protocols. How long until the Sslik fleet arrives? Unknown? But when they do, they will not issue warnings. They will not negotiate. They will destroy every Vrynn vessel in that sector and ask questions later. Voss was quiet for several seconds, thinking through scenarios faster than I could follow. Can you get a message to the Collective? Unofficial channels? Possibly. Why? Because officially, the Coalition cannot interfere in a dispute between the Sslik and the Vrynn. We have treaties with both species. But unofficially, through a concerned individual who happens to have connections to both parties. She let the implication hang. I understood. Plausible deniability. If I acted on my own initiative, reached out through personal contacts, warned the Collective about what was coming, then no government was officially involved. I could contact Delvix, I said slowly. He always valued survival over political posturing. Then I suggest you make that call very soon. And Krath'vex? Make sure he understands. This is not a negotiation. This is not a warning that might be ignored. This is an evacuation notice. Get out or die. Those are the only options. I sent the message through encrypted back channels, marked urgent, bypassed all official protocols. Delvix responded within the hour. Krath'vex, your warning is appreciated but unnecessary. The Collective has assessed the situation and determined that the Sslik will follow standard dispute resolution procedures. We have legal standing under mining treaties. Delvix, listen to me very carefully. I made my tone as urgent as I could. The Sslik do not care about your legal standing. They do not care about mining treaties. You are desecrating their war dead. They will kill you for this. Not eventually, not after negotiations. Immediately. With overwhelming force. You have been among humans too long, old friend. You are thinking like them, emotionally, rather than logically. The Sslik are rational beings. They will not risk military conflict over molecular debris. I tried to explain Sslik honor codes, tried to make him understand that not every species processed death the way the Vrynn did. He did not listen. 3 days later, the Sslik 3rd Battle Fleet arrived in Sector 73. They did not hail. They did not warn. They simply opened fire. 14 Vrynn vessels were destroyed in the first 90 seconds. The mining station lasted another 2 minutes before it was reduced to expanding plasma. The Sslik commander then broadcast a single message. The dead are avenged. Honor is restored. Any species approaching Haven's Gate without authorization will face identical response. Then they returned to their shrine ships and resumed their vigil as if nothing had happened. 423 Vrynn died because the Collective could not understand that some things mattered more than efficiency. I watched the casualty reports come in and felt something break inside me. I had tried to warn them. I had tried to bridge the gap between how my people thought and how the rest of the galaxy thought. It had not been enough. Voss found me in my office that evening, staring at the casualty lists. This was not your fault, she said. I failed to make them understand. You tried. They chose not to listen. That is on them, not you. She sat down across from me. Krath'vex, there is something you need to accept. You cannot save a species from itself. The Collective has to learn these lessons on their own terms. All you can do is be ready to help when they finally decide they want to change. How many more will die before that happens? I do not know. She was quiet for a moment, but fewer than would die if people like you gave up trying. 6 more months passed. I worked with the diplomatic corps, helped negotiate 3 potentially catastrophic situations into peaceful resolutions, and slowly began to understand what Voss had meant. I could not change the Collective, but I could change how other species interacted with the Collective. I could translate, explain, and build understanding, even when my own people refused to learn. It was not the career I had planned. It was not the life I had expected. But it mattered, and maybe that was enough. The last message I received from Voss came on a Tuesday, 3 weeks before she was scheduled to deploy to some classified mission at the edge of known space. Second speaker, Krath'vex. You have exceeded every expectation we had when we recruited you. Your work has prevented at least 6 major incidents that could have escalated to armed conflict. The families of the Daybreak crew asked me to thank you again for your role in ensuring their loved ones were properly honored. And personally, I am glad you took the job. The galaxy needs more people, willing to stand in the gap between different ways of thinking. Stay safe, do good work, and remember, sometimes the best outcome is everyone walking away alive, even if nobody feels like they won. Captain Renna Voss. I kept that message. Read it whenever I doubted whether any of this made a difference. Because here is what I learned in my time working with humans. They do not give up. They do not accept that some problems cannot be solved. They keep trying, keep pushing, keep fighting for what matters, even when logic says it is hopeless. And sometimes, against all rational calculation, they win. The Vrynn Collective still does not fully understand humans. They still make the same mistakes, still value efficiency over empathy, still fail to grasp why molecular debris matters so much to species that honor their dead. But they are learning, slowly, painfully, one incident at a time. And I will be here to help translate, to bridge the gap, to stand between disaster and understanding for as long as it takes. Because Captain Renna Voss taught me something important that day, she destroyed a mining station to honor 2,000 dead souls. Some things are worth fighting for, even when fighting seems illogical. Some things matter more than efficiency. And some warnings, once ignored, lead to consequences that reshape everything. The collective learned that lesson the hard way. I just hope the rest of the galaxy does not have to do the same.